Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, and today I'm bringing you another book review from the Give Yourself Goosebumps series. And it's book number 4, The Deadly Experiments of Dr. Eeek. Oh my lord, this book was bad. I have recently been in a reading slump, and I decided to jump back in the saddle with this book, if only because I wanted to see if this book was as bad as I remembered it being when I was a kid. Because as a kid, I read through maybe less than 10 GYGs at my school library or at my public library. And let me tell you this. This book, y'all, would be in the bottom 5 of the entire franchise, I'm sure of it. If I ever get to through finishing all these books, which I'm trying to do sooner than later, all the ones I have left to do, this probably would be in the bottom 5 of the entire franchise. I'm not too sure of it yet. Easily still put bottom 10 of all the stories combined of the entire franchise as well. This was absolutely terrible. And if you look on the cover here, I've always thought that this cover was one of my least favorite GYG covers. Even though it has Vampirilla, which is literally just a character in one ending of this entire book. For some reason it gets a lot of fan support. It's just one of those things I just have never gotten. And that should be, what I'm saying should be, a good testament of what I'm about to do to this book. I'm going to have to essentially roast this because this was just so blatantly awful on so many levels. I'm just at a loss for words, from the construction of it on, a technical basis down to the story arc selection and the entertainment factor. All of it is just one big old piece of dog crap. So if you want my recommendation, if you should read this book, absolutely not. If you're a diehard Goosebumps fan, there's many Give Yourself Goosebumps books I've already reviewed on this channel that I've given glowing reviews for. Go check out those. Save this book for dead last, because you're not missing anything in this. I promise you that. I'd be baffled if people actually thought this book was genuinely good. So yeah, there's that. So let's get into the plot overview without giving too much away, because I have a lot to unpack with this book. So, like all Give Yourself Goosebumps books, you, as in you out there or the reader of the book, are a character inside of the story, and your decisions impact the story as you go along through your decisions or what the game stipulations provide you. This is one of those Give Yourself Goosebumps books that the gameplay is almost always, if not every single time there is gameplay function in it, though the gameplay is based on factors that you can't control, i.e. luck, like flipping a coin, or how tall you are, or your knowledge of previous Goosebumps books. I guess that's something you can control. But the gameplay in this ain't all there. But you should know that before you go into it, that these books sometimes have gameplay functions where, you need to make note of an item or look at a map, or sometimes it's more basic where you just go through different, story arcs of plot A, plot B, plot C sometimes. That's generally what you're going to expect. But in this book, you and your friend Sam are visiting where your mom works at this laboratory called Eeek Laboratories. And your mom has been busy with work recently, and you're looking to kind of spend some time with her, with your friend. And maybe after she gets off, you guys get to hang out when your mother takes you home. Well, while you're there, you're almost thrown into a very weird circumstance where you feel like, since you've never really been here before, you don't know what to expect, and you're kind of thrown into a situation where you have to trust a certain person. I think her name is Vanessa, or you hear something weird going on. I forget what exactly it is, but it's one of those two things. And you're forced to then pick a decision that's going to impact the rest of the story. You can choose to follow this woman or choose to run away and try to hide and navigate your way through the laboratories. Now, I chose when I first played this to venture off and run away. Now, if you do this option, this is what I call the canine arc of the story, and this is basically where a majority of this book spends focus. As a matter of fact, I hardly consider this book to having an A or B plot because, unlike most Give Yourself Goosebumps books with this setup, this book does not have a distinct plot arc, and it's kind of all over the place and scatterbrained. So it's a very disorganized layout, even for this series standards. But if you go down the running away, you get what I call the canine arc. And majority of this involves you and Sam interacting with this Dr. Eeek fellow. Now, you and Sam are faced with multiple decisions in the story at this point, pretty much off the bat. And the wrong ones, and this is one of those Give Yourself Goosebumps books that do this, the wrong ones will almost immediately send you down some goofy or bad endings. But the bad endings in this book are absolutely cringe. Well, with that being said, you and Sam are basically, thrusted into Dr. Eeek, and Dr. Eeek gives you an ultimatum whether you can participate in an experiment or not. And if you choose to not partake in the experiment, you're still kind of forced to partake in it. One of them is called I think an experiment that starts with the letter B, and there's an ending that implies that it makes you grow taller or something like that. And the other one is this canine maze experiment that it spends way more focus on than it should. And essentially, you and Sam are chased, you're running away from Dr. Eeek, and you're chased down into this corridor, and you end up finding these German Shepherd dogs. There's about 6 of them, and they're all growling, and they're really hungry looking, and they have sharp fangs and stuff, and they pretty much chase you into this maze area, and you and your friend Sam now have to navigate this, place. And at various points, you can, stumble across like a laboratory, and you can find like a beaker of something, and you and your friend can contemplate drinking it. And if Sam drinks it right, mind you, this is kind of like the inciting incident of the whole story. So where Sam fakes you out by drinking a vial, and it just ends up being water, right? But, you'll see this stuff as you go along. You can like find, make the choice to drink something, or you'll find like a vending machine room that has like dog kibble in it. And if you eat the dog kibble, you get turned into dogs, and the other dogs can sniff your human blood inside of you, stuff like that. Or the more infamous thing is that if Dr. Eeek catches you, he tries to split you and Sam up. But if you decide to split up from your friend, he sends you, and I'm not kidding, this is one of the endings of the book, he sends you to a tickle room where you throw off your shoes, and a horde of 20 chimpanzees jump into the room, pick up feathers, and tickle your feet and tickle you to death. Yeah, this is the kind of book you're going to expect, right? Well, if you manage to escape Dr. Eeek, I guess this is the true ending of the book. And this book is actually rather easy to beat, and it's very quick to beat. If you manage to make your way out of the canine maze, there's 3 possible routes where Dr. Eeek is easily defeated, either by the dogs in a grisly fashion, kind of, or you find your mother, and your mother's able to help you, put a stop to Dr. Eeek and get him arrested, or you manage to outsmart Dr. Eeek and use his own inventions against him. The true ending here, I would say, is the mom one, when the mom helps you and Sam, and it's rather corny. There is another arc involving your mom potentially having a twin, and or a clone or something, and that really goes nowhere. It only lasts about 3 or 4 pages of the entire arc. This is the kind of stuff. I'm being very vague. I'm not going into specifics as much as I normally do for these, but it's just all over the place like that, and there's really no distinct path that really matters or sticks out. However, I will say this. On this part of the arc, a lot of the events circumnavigate you back to the canine maze. So the game function of the book is purposely trying to get you to go through this maze, and hopefully you get one of the good endings out of it. And that was another irritation I had with it. But that's basically the majority of this book. The second alternative you can go is Following Vanessa. And Following Vanessa kind of gets more into that clone mom stuff. And then you have this is where the book just gets really random. Like you have the whole Vampirilla ending on this side of the arc where you just end up stumbling, I forget how you stumble in there, but you end up in like a room with a vampire gorilla. Yeah, it's complete nonsense essentially, this arc. But the whole goal, if you go this route, is that you're trying to outsmart Vanessa, like trap her, and then get Dr. Eeek to spill the beans. And I think the true ending of this arc is legit Dr. Eeek spilling the beans to you that he's kind of like a Scooby-Doo villain. You go through this whole thing where you get this green goo and you try to smear it on him to like mark him or like hurt him or something. And he peels off his skin like a Scooby-Doo villain and reveals that he's some disgruntled employee from another laboratory inside of the same building with a different letter spelling. It's still Eeek Laboratories, but you went to the wrong Eeek Laboratories because of the spelling difference. And there's a whole subplot about ordering pizza from the ground floor, and the pizza guy brings you like a mushroom and pepperoni pizza. This is the type of book we're getting here, folks. I'm not kidding. This is the kind of stuff you're reading. And the true ending is after you get that Scooby-Doo villain reveal, this green goo keeps getting smeared on him so he has to keep showing his true form, and he ends up getting arrested. And that's essentially what you're expecting out of this book. I know this is very short and brief, but there's not a lot going on here, right? Now, before I get into like the positives and the negatives, if I have any positives, I will say there are some bits in here that if you're a Goosebumps fan, this does have some trivia moments dealing with My Hairiest Adventure. I think there's one or two nods in here, and in a lot of ways, it feels like a callback to a part of My Hairiest Adventure story, so it makes sense that it's in here. And yeah, but other than that, that's essentially what you're going to expect out of this book. All right, so off the bat, I don't think I have hardly any positives with this book, if at all. I hated basically every single ending because it was just so bland. Every ending in this book, even down to the subplots and things that should matter in terms of story, because let's face it, this is definitely not a game book. I mean, it is, but it's not the same as some other Give Yourself Goosebumps books where you can clearly tell the gameplay is more integral to the experience. This is more story-driven, and the story is just all over the place, nonsensical, and every route you get really just feels like you're wasting your time, and that's the absolute worst sin a Give Yourself Goosebumps book could be, or a Goosebumps book in general. I honestly feel like this book is one of the biggest time wasters I've ever come across because nothing really mattered. I didn't get a single thing out of this story that I hadn't seen before in other kooky scientist books. Prime example, there's a book called The Creepy Creations of Professor Shock that is almost 100 times better than this book, and it deals with a kooky scientist. I mean, there's Egg Monsters from Mars, an original 62 book that has a kooky scientist idea that works better than this. This is the most childish thing I have read in Goosebumps next to Don't Make Me Laugh. And Don't Make Me Laugh, I said it in my review of that short story book from the Haunted Library trilogy. That has to be one of the worst Goosebumps stories I ever read. And this feels right down there with it. I mean, to be fair, I should prop this up. I am not a fan at all of dogs turning into humans or humans turning into dogs plots, and that's essentially what you're going to expect out of here. Oh, and I should mention this too, right? Because the book features so much prominence on this canine maze arc and all these different nonsensical paths constantly redirect you there, the biggest sin about this book is that out of all the routes you can take, in order to get to the true ending, you need to have encountered this half-human, half-dog boy inside of this room and gather a key. And I'm telling you, y'all, I went through 5 different arcs. I even reread this arc in some areas to kind of refresh my brain. And I could not find for the life of me the correct path to get to this boy. As a matter of fact, I don't think that the story actually allows you to do that. There's a part of the book where you need to say that you got this key, right? That's probably the most gameplay function out of the entire story that you're going to get. But there's really no congruent path to get there. As a matter of fact, I had to go through each individual page and find it, and I try to retrace back to it. And I don't think there's a legit way to get to that page. I think that whole maze arc is broken. It's confusing. It's all over the place. It's easy to get lost and constantly routed back to it. It's annoying. It's probably one of the most broken side arcs or main arcs in the history of Give Yourself Goosebumps. So add that to the pile of dung that this book is. It's stuff like that, right? When I think about a Give Yourself Goosebumps book, on the foundation of these books, they're at least entertaining or fun to play, and I sometimes can latch onto that even in the weaker ones. Or in the case of Trick or Trapped, which is probably my lowest rated book in this series up until this book at least, that had broken gameplay, but some parts of the story were legitimately fun, and I can enjoy it because there was legitimate, set up to that, and there was distinct plot routes and all that you can kind of grasp onto. And despite the gameplay being absolutely broken, those parts did kind of redeem it. This has none of that. And I'm speaking on the whole book as a whole here. There is no structure to this book. And I hear that's the main negative from a lot of reviewers that I love and respect out here in the community. Everyone seems to think that this book is structureless, and it absolutely is. The equivalent of a regular Goosebumps book I can compare this to is imagine Legend of the Lost Legend in a GYG form, where it's just go gadget random crap constantly. That's what this book is. Dr. Eeek is a nothing villain. He has nothing to offer. He's easily defeatable. He's almost laughably bad because anytime he has a sinister threat plotline going on, this is also another annoyance I have with the book, there's a recontextualization that, oh, I was kidding, and you get some weird ending that just makes no sense why you're getting an ending there. Or he's easily defeated by something really dumb, and he gets easily arrested. The guy's a nothing villain. He's probably one of the worst Goosebumps villains of all time. And yeah, just thinking about the sheer childishness of this book, I understand. I'm a grown adult reading these books. I can maybe see kids getting some enjoyment out of this. But I highly doubt kids that come into this series and they read books like Welcome to Dead House, or they read books like Headless Halloween or Ghost Camp, or some of the more frightening books, and they read this, where the highlight of scares of this book, mind you, is a Scooby-Doo type reveal where a guy's pulling off fake skin and German Shepherd dogs. How can you take this seriously? I mean, obviously, you really shouldn't take a book like this seriously, and maybe that's part of the problem some of you might have with my review of this, is that maybe I am taking it so seriously. But I did not take it seriously, and I still couldn't have fun with it. It's just too dumb, I think, for the mainstream to really actually enjoy it. I think this, whoever wrote this book, I had a hard confidence this was ghost written, not written by R.L. Stine. Whoever wrote this book definitely was going in with a goofier side of mind, and I can definitely see it having an audience, but it's definitely not me. I think it spent the focus of the structure of the book, the plot lines, the villain builds, and the options you have with gameplay. It spent pretty much all of the wrong focus in all of the wrong areas. It was just trying to throw so much silly gag humor stuff in there. I think there's an ending involving Tarzan coming to rescue like a talking chimp. Yeah, throw that into there, the random WTF moments of this book. It's just, I really have no words left to say about it, honestly. I'm kind of all over the place because I'm struggling to get my thoughts across with this book because it's just so bad on almost every conceivable way that I have absolutely nothing positive to say about it. And I'm honestly stumped. For the first time in my channel history reading a book where I just have given up trying to find something redeeming in it. So from a 0 to 5-star basis, for the first time ever, I'm giving a full book, or I guess a game book here, Give Yourself Goosebumps, book number 4, The Deadly Experiments of Dr. Eeek, a 1 out of 5 stars. The worst book I've read on this channel so far. Aside from some short stories out there, maybe some episodes, this is as worse as you can get. This was terrible, in my opinion. I will be shocked if there's another Give Yourself Goosebumps book worse than this. I would be shocked. There's a lot of hated ones out there, but even then, I can't see those being as bad as this. Ain't no way. You can't convince me. This was awful. Genuinely awful. So yeah, that's all I got. That's my thoughts on The Deadly Experiments of Dr. Eeek. Let me know down in the comments section if you've read this book before. Do you love this or do you hate this? I'm dying to know. And I'll see you next time.